Hello, and welcome back to StorySky English, your peaceful place for learning English through fascinating stories from history. Today, we are traveling more than 2,000 years into the past to the magnificent kingdom of ancient Egypt. When most people hear the name Cleopatra, they think of beauty, romance, and the famous stories about Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. But what if everything you think you know about Cleopatra is only a small part of the truth? What if her greatest strength was not her beauty, not her wealth, and not her powerful army? What if her greatest weapon was her mind? Cleopatra was one of the most educated rulers of the ancient world. She could speak several languages, communicate with different cultures, and negotiate directly with kings, ambassadors, and generals without the help of interpreters. At a time when language meant power, Cleopatra used words as her greatest weapon. Her voice helped her build alliances. Her intelligence helped her protect her kingdom. And her ability to understand different people made her one of history's most remarkable queens. Today, we will discover the true story of Cleopatra, the queen who conquered hearts with intelligence before she conquered history. Let's begin.
Cleopatra was born around 69 BC in the great city of Alexandria. Alexandria was one of the greatest cities in the ancient world. Its famous library attracted scholars from many different countries. Scientists, philosophers, mathematicians, and writers all came to Alexandria to share ideas. Growing up in this city gave Cleopatra something very special. She was surrounded by knowledge. Her family belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty. Although they ruled Egypt for nearly 300 years, they were originally Greek, descendants of one of Alexander the Great's generals. Most members of her family spoke only Greek. Many never even learned the Egyptian language. They ruled Egypt, but they remained foreigners in many ways. Cleopatra was different. From a very young age, she loved learning. She spent countless hours studying history, mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, and medicine. But above all, she loved languages. She believed that every language opened the door to another world.
Cleopatra rarely needed an interpreter. Imagine how unusual this was. When foreign ambassadors arrived at the palace, most rulers depended on translators. Every sentence passed through another person's mouth. Important meanings could easily be lost. But Cleopatra preferred to speak directly. She welcomed visitors in their own language. She understood their customs. She listened without anyone standing between them. This gave her a powerful advantage. People trusted her more. Negotiations became easier. And many visitors were amazed that the Queen of Egypt could speak to them as if she had grown up in their homeland. Language was not simply a skill for Cleopatra. It was diplomacy. It was leadership. And in many situations, it was more powerful than an army. To Cleopatra, every new language was another bridge between nations. While other rulers built walls, she built conversations. And sometimes, a single conversation can change history.
When Cleopatra was only 18 years old, her father died. According to tradition, she became queen alongside her younger brother. But sharing power was never easy. Very soon, powerful advisors at the royal court turned her brother against her. Cleopatra lost control of the palace. She was forced to leave Alexandria. For many rulers, this would have been the end of the story. But Cleopatra refused to give up. Instead of accepting defeat, she began making plans to reclaim her throne. She knew that Egypt needed a powerful ally. At that moment, the greatest power in the Mediterranean was Rome, and one man stood above all others. His name was Julius Caesar.
In 48 BC, Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria. Cleopatra knew she had only one chance to meet him. According to ancient writers, she secretly entered the royal palace at night. One famous story says she was wrapped inside a large carpet or a bundle of cloth and carried into Caesar's room. Whether every detail is true or not, one thing is certain. The meeting changed history. Cleopatra did not rely only on appearance. She spoke with confidence. She understood politics. She knew Roman history. She discussed ideas with one of the greatest military leaders in the world. Caesar quickly realized that Cleopatra was intelligent, well-educated, and determined. Soon he decided to support her claim to the Egyptian throne. After months of conflict, Cleopatra returned as queen. She had regained her kingdom, not by leading an army herself, but through diplomacy, intelligence, and careful planning.
Now that Cleopatra had returned to power, she faced another challenge. Egypt had become weaker after years of political conflict. The economy needed help. The people needed stability. The kingdom needed strong leadership. Cleopatra worked hard to strengthen trade across the Mediterranean. She supported agriculture along the Nile River. She encouraged learning in Alexandria, one of the greatest centers of knowledge in the ancient world. She also appeared in public ceremonies as the goddess Isis, a symbol that connected her with the traditions of the Egyptian people. Unlike many rulers before her, Cleopatra could speak directly to ordinary Egyptians in their own language. This helped her build trust with her people. She understood something that many leaders still learn today. A ruler must not only govern the country, a ruler must also understand its people. Because of this, Cleopatra became far more than a queen. She became a symbol of Egypt itself. But peace would not last forever. Far away in Rome, another struggle for power was beginning. And once again, Cleopatra would find herself standing at the center of history.
In 44 BC, everything changed once again. Julius Caesar was assassinated in Rome. His death shocked the ancient world. For Cleopatra, it also meant uncertainty. The man who had protected her kingdom was gone. Soon, Rome was divided by another struggle for power. One of its new leaders was Mark Antony, a brilliant general and a close friend of Caesar. In 41 BC, Antony invited Cleopatra to meet him. But this would not be an ordinary meeting. Cleopatra understood that first impressions could shape history. She sailed to meet Antony on a magnificent ship with purple sails, golden decorations, and the finest perfumes. Ancient writers describe the scene as unforgettable. But once again, it was not luxury alone that impressed Antony. It was Cleopatra herself.
She spoke with confidence. She understood politics. She discussed the future of the Mediterranean as an equal, not as someone asking for help. Over time, Antony and Cleopatra became allies. Later, they also became partners in life. Together, they dreamed of creating a powerful future for Egypt and the Eastern Mediterranean. But not everyone in Rome welcomed this alliance.
In Rome, another powerful leader was rising. His name was Octavian. He would later become the first Roman emperor. Octavian believed Antony had become too loyal to Cleopatra. He used this relationship to turn many Romans against them. Soon, war became unavoidable. In 31 BC, the two sides met in one of history's most famous naval battles, the Battle of Actium. Octavian's fleet was stronger and better prepared. After hours of fighting, Antony and Cleopatra were forced to retreat. Their dream was coming to an end. 1 year later, Octavian entered Egypt. Realizing that defeat was certain, Antony took his own life. Soon afterward, Cleopatra also died. Ancient tradition says she allowed an Egyptian cobra to bite her. Other historians believe she may have used poison. The exact truth remains unknown. She was only 39 years old. With her death, the age of the Egyptian pharaohs came to an end. Egypt became part of the Roman Empire. An era that had lasted for thousands of years was over.
For centuries, many stories focused on Cleopatra's beauty. Artists painted her as the most beautiful woman in history. Writers spoke of romance. Movies turned her life into a love story. But modern historians see something much greater. They see a queen who mastered diplomacy, a ruler who understood economics, a leader who valued education, a woman who spoke directly with foreign kings without interpreters, a queen who understood that knowledge could be more powerful than weapons. Perhaps this is Cleopatra's greatest lesson. Beauty fades. Power changes. Empires rise and fall. But intelligence, the ability to learn, and the courage to communicate with others can shape history for generations. So, who was Cleopatra? Was she simply the beautiful queen we often see in films? Or was she one of the most brilliant political minds of the ancient world? The answer may be both. But one thing is certain. Cleopatra's greatest legacy was not only the kingdom she ruled, it was the example she left behind. She proved that education creates confidence, that language builds bridges between cultures, and that true leadership begins with understanding people. More than 2,000 years after her death, the world still speaks her name. Not because she sought fame, but because she changed history. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Cleopatra. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to StorySky English for more historical stories that help you improve your English while discovering the people who shaped our world. Until next time, keep learning, keep listening, and remember, every great story begins with a curious mind.